Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Whether you are a sales professional, not in sales but interested in helping people solve problems, or a founder CEO who is looking to grow your business, you'll find practical tools, stories, and experience you can apply to your role. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with the co-founder of Catalyst Sale, Mike Simmons. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody.
Well, how's it been, Mike?
Jody, it has been awesome, as it usually is.
It usually is, I know. I don't even have to ask because it's always awesome. Mike, I have a very direct question for you this week.
Okay.
Is training an expense or an investment? That's quite a way to just kick off a show right at the beginning.
You know, it is a way to kick off the show right at the beginning, and it actually relates to, it seems like people continue to talk about this topic. And then actually, Donald Kelly, who we had on the podcast a number of episodes ago, you've posted this in his Facebook group too and it was a takeoff of that quote that people will usually, or meme that people will usually post on Twitter. And it's the CFO comes in and asks the question, what if we train all of our people and they leave? And then somebody else comes in and asks the question, what if you don't train them and they stay? Mm-hmm. Which I know a lot of people have fun with it and whatnot. And I think it's more that meme or that cartoon or that quote or that story, all of those usually are driven by vendors with a motive to sell some type of training inside an organization. Because I can't remember the last time that someone asked me or made that statement to me where they said, hey, what if I train my people and they leave? So I think that's an older method of thinking. But so to get back to your question about training as an investment or an expense, I think it depends on where you sit inside the organization and whether or not those people report up through your area of responsibility. If I'm a leader inside an organization, I'm always looking at training, whether it's training that I'm participating in as a leader or training that I'm bringing in for my team to participate in. So I'm bringing it in for my team as an investment because my expectation is things are going to change inside the organization as a result of that training. And the things that change should be in a positive direction. They should help move the organization forward. Now, if I'm not leading the team and I'm just looking at the number, it's going to sit on the expense sit out there as a general expense in the organization. So I think like most things, it depends on your perspective.
Yeah, I think you're right because depending on your role, you could easily just add up the dollars and say, look at that expense. I think there's another way to look at it as well. But if it is bad training, if it's unnecessary training, it's an expense every time.
Oh yeah. And the expense goes so far beyond the money that you're paying to facilitate the training or the amount that you're spending to have people subscribe to it or go through it or get the certification. Think about how much time people spend going through that stuff. And if you start to add that into the overall cost of training, that can become a really expensive endeavor.
Yeah. And I also think back to your washing machine story where a washing machine works really hard, but it's just mostly a lot of action. Too often, I think maybe this is how training is viewed. Look, we took an action. We sent our team through training. And that's why it's viewed as an expense. It's not progress. If it's not the right training, it's not an investment, nor is it progress.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, if let's say, think about, even going through like the discussions that people have today around anti-harassment training, compliance training. Yeah. It's hard to find a situation where people are like, yes, I have to go through my AB 1825 training again, this 2-hour death march through PowerPoints or slides. And for those who don't know, AB 1825 is the anti-harassment law in the state of California that requires that managers, those people who have people reporting to them, go through this 2-hour class or 2-hour training. And it's one of those where you can only hit next after you've watched maybe the slide or the video for a 30-second period or a minute period or whatever it is. But it's not only about the content that you consume, it's about the time that it takes to consume the content. At no point is the measurement the behavior, the outcome, the change in behavior. And if your focus is on just ticking a box then maybe you're looking at your training initiatives inside your organization as an expense or a need to do, as opposed to a how can I level the organization up and move the organization forward? So I'd ask yourself that question if that's how you view that stuff.
Now, one of the things you've said reminds me, I never thought this way about training, but I certainly have thought this about meetings I've been in where I'll look around the room and just kind of ballpark the salaries and say, wow, this meeting is so boring. And look at this. If we're in here for an hour, look at how much this costs. Well, one question I have then, if it is an investment and not an expense, and we have, let's say we're in a position where we want to send a team through training, how can we convince a decision maker that a training is an investment and not an expense?
Well, I think the first place you start with is clarity around what the expected outcomes. So first, we understand our current state. This is how the organization is operating currently. These are what the results are currently. These are where how our metrics are penciling out. And these could be, maybe it's the average time that a customer service rep or CSR is spending with a customer before they move to resolution. Or it might be the average amount or the number of people that a customer has to talk to before they get to resolution. We all have these metrics that we use out there. We've talked about them in the past around KPIs and designing those KPIs based on the business outcomes that you're looking for, your desired outcomes. So I would start first with, here's what my expectations are around what this training is going to turn into. And I would also be really clear about how I'm going to measure that success. I would also be really clear to say that this is a test. This is an experiment. This is what we're testing. We're investing. Some investments pay off and some don't. But the ones who pay off should pay off at an amount that covers all of the other investments that maybe didn't pay off. So I think a lot of it, and I feel like I'm rambling here a little bit, but a lot of it has to do with the outcomes that you're expecting, the expectations that you're setting, the way that you are going to measure against success, how you're going to evaluate success. And then I think the last piece there is around timing. So how, from a timing perspective, what are you going to look at to illustrate that success? Is this going to change is this going to create a significant increase in the number of opportunities that are generated over the course of the next quarter and revenue that's going to be generated or won over the course of the next 2 quarters? Or is it something that's going to have an impact on the business immediately? Be really clear around what your expectations are around timing. All of that stuff is data oriented. So I'm talking about my perspective. So if someone is coming to me to justify that training, I'm going to want to see the data. If you're doing that for somebody else inside your organization, know what matters to them.
When I can think of a specific example, but I've decided I probably shouldn't share it, but I can think of a situation where the organization that I was with was given a budget to hire somebody to train about something very specific. And the person that made the decision, the person that they chose to do the training, it wasn't very long into the training where we realized, we didn't use these words. This is an expense and not an investment. It just was checking off the box to say the training happened. So how can we, if we're the one looking for training, I'm sure there's things we can look for to make sure that we're not checking the box. It's not an expense because we just had to do it. It's an actual investment in our people. What are the things we should be looking for?
I think the big thing is it going to change behavior? Is it going to change the way that you do things? Is it going to change something? Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges we hear over and over again, and we've talked about it in the onboarding discussions, but when you hire up your new sales team, you send them out to the corporate headquarters for the onboarding training. They go through and they sit with a couple of people in the sales enablement team and some folks in product and some folks in marketing. And then when they get back to their desk or they get back to their workplace or they get back to wherever, the manager then says, okay, I know you just went through all of this stuff. Let me show you how things really happen inside the business. And all they do is just completely take away from the benefit of the training, this activity that took place out wherever it was, out at the headquarters. So I think it's important that we as leaders in the business, or we as learning professionals inside the business, that we make sure that we understand what the desired business outcomes are. And we hold ourselves and those who go through the training accountable to executing on those business outcomes. And we adapt the learning, we adapt the training to meet those needs as the operational needs change. And some of this gets into coaching, ongoing coaching. Some of it gets into ongoing accountability. But to get back to the core question about when you're evaluating information, I mean, like when I evaluate whether or not I'm going to pick up a new book, I decide, okay, is it going to be worth the amount of time that I'm going to invest in reading it? Is it going to be worth the amount that I'm going to spend to purchase it? And can I wait a little bit longer and maybe check that thing out from the library? So I've got a couple of different ways that I can evaluate it. But what I want to do is I want to invest in things that are going to move me forward. So when you're investing in resources inside your organization, invest in things that are going to move the entire organization forward, not just check the box so that we can go back to the company and say, we recorded 365 days of learning inside the organization.
Well, I'm going to come at this from a whole different angle.
Okay.
Catalyst Sale does training within organizations. And I know you're very aware of making sure you're meeting the needs of the company, that it is an investment from the people that hire you. So from a trainer's perspective, what do you do to make sure that when they hire Catalyst Sale, whoever they is, this other company, that they have made an investment in their organization rather than just made the expense of hiring you to put on a show?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we do is we tell people we're not for everybody. Like if you're looking for a boilerplate cookie cutter type event that's just going to take everybody through the same process or through the same thing, step over step after step, then you probably don't want to be working with us. It's not worth the expense or the cost associated with it. But when it comes down to practical application, the first thing we do is we interview or we have a discussion with the stakeholders, and we get a sense for what's happening today, what's the current state, and we get a sense for what the desired state is. And once we understand the current state, we understand the desired state. We don't do this from the perspective of one stakeholder. If we do it from the perspective of one stakeholder, there's a high level of risk that we are only going to meet the objectives from that individual's perspective, not necessarily the organization's perspective. So we understand current state, we understand desired state, we assess some gaps, and then we figure out, is the issue that we're addressing a people issue? Like, do we have the right people? Is it a process issue? Do we have the right systems in place to help support whatever it is that they're addressing? Or is it something else? And from there, we then design our solution to meet the objectives that the organization is looking to do. And that it could just be pure sales training. It could be foundational skill stuff, like the stuff we talk about on the podcast. Many times I'll point people out to those, like talking about building pipeline and conducting outreach, or taking a journalist approach to asking questions, or going through planning. There are some times where we can just kind of point people to that content. The thing that's different about when we deliver it inside organizations, it's very personal to those organizations. It's very focused on those organizations.
Well, this has been a good look at whether training is an expense or an investment. And I would almost think if you do view it as an expense, I would just hold off. I would just hold off on training for now because you're not going to get enough out of it. What do you think about that, Mike?
Well, I think it depends, Jody. I mean, there are some things that that organizations will have to put employees through for compliance purposes, and they have to do it. And it doesn't matter if I do it in a customized way or I do it in a check the box way. Ultimately, I've got to check that box in order to keep the business operating. And in some of those instances, then you've kind of got to decide: is it better to invest time, energy, and resources in building something custom that maybe changes in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, or doesn't last as long as you'd like it to? Or can I go ahead and is the boilerplate, is the out of the box stuff just good enough to get me 80% of the way there? And maybe I customize that remaining 20% that's out there. maybe that's where I can apply the context. And then maybe I can invest in some coaching down the road to help keep people accountable and make sure that we're performing against expectations. So I do know that there are situations where it just makes sense to go out and buy the $9.99 Excel for Dummies class. It just works. But I also know that there are instances where, based on the impact that it's going to have on your business, it's important to invest in something that's a bit more structured and tailored to your business, because the vocabulary you use inside your business is unique to you. And by aligning with that vocabulary, you can help connect dots faster, help those synapses synapse, and help make sure that the behavior changes inside the organization.
Do you have any more thoughts to leave with us about training?
Do it. I mean, like, invest in your employees. It's so much harder to go out and find new good people. If you've got people inside your organization who just aren't getting it and won't ever get it, and no matter how much training, their performance is not going to increase, then maybe you shouldn't have hired them. And maybe you should kind of cut your losses by making some changes inside the organization. But if you think you've hired the right people and you're building a high performing team that's going to lead your organization to success in the future, invest in their success, or at a minimum, let them know that you believe that it's really important for them to invest in their personal success and support their interest in personal and professional development, and know that personal and professional development will have an impact on your business.
All right, Mike, as we wind up here, I can't help but finish a great talk about training without mentioning that, oh, by the way, Catalyst Sale, they do sales training.
Yeah, I almost feel like this was a giant infomercial for Catalyst Sale, and that's not the intent. You can, whether you were talking about sales training or harassment training or any of the other stuff that's out there, apply it here. But yeah, we do conduct training. We facilitate training. We actually hold workshops periodically in Scottsdale. We're looking to extend those beyond the Valley. We're also thinking about hosting some webinars where we deliver the content. And you can go back and listen to back episodes. The thing I'd ask everybody to do out there, if you're getting value out of the discussions that we have, share back with us how you're applying the information practically. We had a guy who used to work for us a number of years ago, who recently posted on I think it was on LinkedIn or Twitter, about how he is applying the stuff that we talk about within Catalyst Sale to hone and improve his craft. So James, thanks for doing that. We'd love to hear from other listeners out there how you're applying it. So thank you all for doing that. And you can do that at either Simmons_M, which is my Twitter handle, or at Catalyst Sale, which is the business Twitter handle, or connect with us on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. That was a great discussion. And thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale podcast.